Good afternoon, gentlemen.
Good evening.
Good day.
How are we today? Hot.
Yeah, I was going to say sticky.
Yeah, it is very warm here in Australia at the time of recording.
And if you're watching on YouTube, where you can find all these videos now, we're all wearing NHL jerseys at Ben's request. Not sure. Well, I can have a guess as why, but not sure exactly why.
Definitely a badminton episode coming up.
Yeah,
But they're all episode would be good.
They're all long sleeve, so we're roasted.
We may not wear them the whole episode. Okay, so athletes, they are by default role models for people. Even if they are somewhat colourful in their personal lives, like Manny Ramirez.
I thought you were going to say colourful athletes shouldn't be role models. So
No,
Ben, I've got to cut that.
They should be role models. Colourful athletes, Manny Ramirez. You can respect him and admire him and be a role model for his ability. Maybe not his work ethic, or maybe not his outside of the sport thing. Stephen Bradbury, who we just talked about. You can have a lot of admiration for his work ethic and his resilience. But athletes do, more often than not, have character flaws or problems. And the levels that we hold different athletes to higher or lower regards are typically due to their skill or prowess.
Manny.
Yeah.
So if you have someone that's really, really good, you're probably going to let some things slide with their behavior. Maybe a crime or maybe something unsavory or unflattering in society.
So it's like, how many goals do you have to get to score a crime?
Yeah, so I've got a few examples here of different levels and how people are treated differently. So Adrian Peterson, very famous running back in the NFL, Vikings legend.
He's got a shirt up in the studio.
He does. But did you know that in 2014, he had felony child abuse charges for spanking his 4-year-old son with a tool, leaving him bloodied and bruised?
I did know that, unfortunately.
Bad. Really bad.
Mm.
But he only faced a 1-year suspension and then was allowed to keep playing in the league.
Did he face any other criminal penalty?
He did face criminal penalties. It was mostly fines and then anger management classes and things like that. He was able to be out of jail.
And he's got a crazy story that continues even out of the league. Every year something crazy comes out about him. 6 months ago he was arrested at a casino, not your Vegas casino, a small little weird little casino, and he was just fighting people. He got into a fight at a blackjack table with someone.
Jeez. It's like the NRL scandals that come out.
Yeah.
So he didn't lose his job, and he was phenomenal. He was one of the greatest to ever play. On the other side, an Australian player, Israel Folau. So he lost his job as an Australian rugby player for posting social media posts that had some homophobic beliefs in there. He claimed it was in accordance with his religious beliefs. He wrote, "Homosexuals will burn in hell." And that was a direct breach of his contract with Rugby Australia, and he was fired and barred from playing rugby union.
Do you remember that one?
Yeah, we talked about the lines of when something is or isn't acceptable, and there's having your religious belief, and then there's saying people are going to burn in hell for just being who they are. It's
yeah, and like you mentioned, whether they like it or not, they're role models, so you're held to a different standard.
But in this case, it may not be what's worse. I think personally, beating your kid's probably worse than a social media post, but Israel Folau had in his contract not to post on social media his beliefs.
Oh.
And that's why he was fired. Whereas in the NFL, there isn't a behavior clause in your contract saying if you commit a crime, you'll lose your contract. So that's a different issue. But just to say, athletes, how good you are kind of gives you a little bit more leeway. So we're going to be talking about a guy who had at least 3 DUI convictions, reckless driving charges, drug possession, drug smuggling charges, multiple assaults of police officers, resisting arrest, an illegal border entry, and it finally took a DUI charge where he had a blood alcohol content of 0.31, 6 times above the Australian legal limit.
Setting records.
Yeah,
and
that charge
times.
sheet sounds like the comment section of a kid's video. Oh, this kid sold me fentanyl in the car park. Did you know he has 5 DUI charges against him?
It's like when you go on someone's Wikipedia page, it's like the controversy section. It's like, ooh. So
his was 3 times the legal limit in Canada, the US, where he was driving. And as a result, he was given
So 3 times the legal limit there.
Yep.
But 6 times
here. Yeah.
So they've got double the limit we
Limit of
have
us,
here.
yeah. It was at the time, it was the 80s, 90s, so their legal limit was 0.1. Ours is 0.05 to be able to drive.
Wow, that...
So after this, he was given a $1 million annual raise.
What?
Today we'll be talking about Bob Probert, the most legendary hockey enforcer.
Hello and welcome to Wild World Sport, the podcast where three friends sit down, crack a couple beers, and go on a journey to try and find the wildest story from the world of sport. My name is James Wybrow.
I'm James's brother Ben, no relation.
I am Carlin Sheaves.
Carlin, like drink? Or
Is that a
Or the
drink?
tower of
No.
Pisa.
It's like Jolene, but
Carlin.
Carlin. I didn't know it's a drink. Is it?
Yeah, lean. Like sipping on that lean,
okay.
that purple drink.
Carlin specifically, so like petrol.
Yeah,
Is it?
I'm out of my depth here.
All right, well, let's go to where you are in
Okay.
your depth, and that is To All My Friends.
Yeah,
Bar.
To All My Friends Bar in Cook Shops. Great place to go, and we're very grateful to have them as a sponsor of the show. Atmosphere is great. Beverages are always great. They always have a nice, rotating selection of beers.
No lean.
No lean.
They don't have lane.
but,
or
you know,
Carlin.
you should check them out, and that helps us by helping them.
All right, tell us.
Okay,
Tell
on
us
to
about
the story.
What was his name? Bill.
Bob Probert.
Probert.
It's interesting last name.
I just
Where's he
like-
from?
He's Canadian.
Right. Probert.
Probert.
But I just like Bob. Like as a kid, always in the stories, it's Fred, Bill, and Bob are your three characters. So anytime you see a sporting Bob, it always just makes me smile. So I'll start us off with a quote from his mother. "You can't be a wimp or anything. You have to be strong." And that's what he did. And another quote from his wife. "He never cried at his dad's funeral. That's how he was raised. Boys don't cry. Men can't cry."
It's pretty toxic.
Hmm.
If you want to have toxic masculinity in the dictionary, that quote would be the example.
He did have a strict upbringing. His father was a police officer, and as his partner explained in a documentary about Bob's life, the scrutiny on police officers were very different in the 70s and 80s, and recalled a time where there was a drunkard who was just holding on to a street post not to be arrested. So they got out their batons and beat him till he was unconscious to then drag him away, and they were joking about it. So, different standards.
Sounds like an NRL story almost in Sydney.
Oh yeah, with a Raiders player.
Hmm.
So his dad was very strict with him and taught, don't cry in public. If you're going to cry, you do it at home, and then condition them not to cry or show their emotions as young men.
And this is the guy that had that giant list of
List of-
criminal stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think telling him
Unrelated.
that, unrelated.
I think, he was being a fine young gentleman until all the incidents, obviously.
So Bob's father died in August of 1982 when Bob was 17 years old. He came to the funeral service, and the next day was driven back to his junior hockey club and in Brantford and continued playing. From the age of 15, Bob was in the junior hockey system in Canada.
Do you know,
Yes.
did he choose to continue playing, or was he forced?
He
or was
chose
it-
to leave straight away. He didn't speak to his family,
Wow.
didn't speak to his mother. He went for the service, didn't cry, and then his dad's partner drove him back to Brantford for his hockey thing.
Because, everyone copes through grief in different ways. And if you love sport and you're up and coming athlete, then you'd want to just continue playing. Or some people would, some people wouldn't. But hearing that other stuff, I don't know, I sort of feel bad for him that he's
Yeah.
not allowed to process his grief properly.
His mum did say, one day I lost my husband and the next day I lost my son. So it was
Jesus.
tense relationship.
This
So
is good advertisement
We're
for
on
not
track
being
right now.
toxic.
I was thinking it's like we've got award for saddest story. Season 1, Felix can have it, but
Yeah.
Ben's gunning for season 2.
Yeah.
Saddest story.
So it gets worse before it gets better. It's like the Uma Musume. I'm just not going to build your hopes up just to crush them down.
Great.
So from the age of 15, Bob was in the junior hockey system in Canada, playing for the Spitfires and the Alexanders. And
Well, I get Spitfires being a team name. What is the Alexanders?
couldn't tell you. That was the Bradford team. He was playing for them when his father passed
they're
away.
all called Alexander.
Yeah.
And they're great.
It's like Bilbao. They only pick players from the local region. The Alexanders, they only pick players named Alexander.
Or it's like the South Korean
Bob.
team, how it's like they're all called Kim.
Yeah.
I do like how, was
Kim
it the
FC.
South Korean or the Japanese, one of the Asian countries' women's team, every training session would swap jersey numbers. And when the coach was asked, they said, well, we know these white people can't tell us apart very easily, so it's harder to scout our players.
Wouldn't...
Huh.
I mean, I guess it makes sense, but don't you want people to scout you?
But like preparing for like the World Cup or
Yeah, I
an
suppose.
international thing, all the players are the best of their country. It's like, oh, we know number 16's right-footed and they're really good at this. So they just keep swapping the jerseys to make it harder on, if you're from Bulgaria and you're watching the South Korean training session, you probably aren't going to know the differences between Kim Young and King Hu.
Valid.
Okay, so here's a quote from Bob on his junior hockey. I just took it upon myself to kind of learn how to fight in junior hockey, being one of the bigger guys, to protect my teammates. There's a lot of guys on my team that can skate a lot better than I can, They're faster. But when I was breaking up through the ranks, that was one way I could get into the big leagues, to fight my way up. Bruce Bell, one of his junior teammates, said he didn't like fighting. At least, that's what he told me. He did it because he had to do it. He had to. Now I think it's a good time to say, what is an enforcer in hockey?
A bludger in Quidditch.
You know what?
Kind of, actually. That's a pretty apt analogy or comparison. So, an enforcer is an unofficial role for a player whose job it is to protect teammates, especially star players, by deterring and responding to rough or dirty play from their opponents, often through intimidation and violence. Or fighting.
Sergio Ramos.
Yeah.
So,
red card.
in the modern game of ice hockey, all players need to be competent with the puck and be all-round skilled players. But back in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, you could afford on your team to just have a bruiser. Someone that wasn't that skilled. They couldn't score goals. They weren't a great defender. But they were big, tough, and strong. And their job was to intimidate and fight.
Because how many... There's 5 on the ice and a keeper?
Yeah, 5 on the ice and a keeper.
And then how many is in the actual squad on a match day?
I think there's 4 lines of 3 players for the offensive, and then 3 lines of defenders, I believe. So that's 6, 12, 18. Yeah, 18 and 2 goalies on your team.
Okay. And they sub,
Yeah, so the average time on ice, it's called a shift, is between 40 seconds and a minute. So you go out there, do 40 seconds, then come off and someone else goes on.
It does track, in a sport that has rules about how you fight, that they've got a whole position about fighting people.
Yeah. And when you're only on there for 40 seconds, you can afford to have your guy just be there to fight. And if he's just going after one guy, it's still going to then be 4-on-4. You're not really a man down.
Yeah, so all teams kind of had to have an enforcer. Because let's say Carlin's the best player for the St. Louis Blues, which
Why'd you
is
pick
the
Carlin?
jersey he's playing. And James is the enforcer for the Red Wings.
That's better.
So he's Bob Probert because he was a Red Wing. You want to be on the ice when Carlin's on the ice so you can hurt him. You want to start a fight with him or check him against the boards within the rules to hurt him or just put pressure on him not to play as well. So when you get on the ice, Carlin's going to want to get off the ice and I'll get on the ice as the enforcer for the Blues to now take the aggression away from you or to deter you from being aggressive against my players. So it was kind of a bit of a dance that would be done.
You've got
counterplays.
The role of being the bodyguard and also the attacker.
Yeah. It's an intense job. And typically after one fight, you're kind of done because it would take a lot out of you because you're practically bare knuckle boxing.
As well as actually playing ice hockey.
As well as playing ice hockey, yeah. Okay, so I'll get to a quote by Jim Lights, who was the Red Wings VP at the time of this story. Obviously a system that takes children away from their parents at ages of 15 and 16 because they're basically professional. They're playing 80 games in a season. By its nature, it takes the kids out of school. In reality, it's really a business. So from the ages of 15 and 16, if you're good enough, you're picked up by a Spitfire or Alexanders to play in the junior hockey system, and you're playing a full NHL length season.
So they're not studying at the same time?
Well, Bob never graduated high school.
Did you say the 80s?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Fair. I can see that happening.
So now kids still get to go to school, and these programs can't be as rigorous in the time. Like playing 80 full games,
They take it quite seriously.
that's a
now,
full
don't they?
season. But I just imagine if you're a 15, 16-year-old kid and you're trying to make a go of it, and you don't make it to professional level, you've lost your education.
Mm.
Do you really want to be going back to start high school with 14-year-olds when you're 18?
It's what's it called? The one with Adam Sandler.
Billy Madison.
Billy Madison.
Yeah. Yeah.
So being isolated within the team environment and separated from the outside influences, because you think 80 games, they're not at your home stadium. You might be on a bus every single day going to a new place to train, led to the fostering and promoting of degenerate behaviours like smoking and drinking at very young ages. 14, 15, 16-year-olds would be seen drinking and smoking as part of these junior organisations.
So you'd think, I guess, like it is the 80s, but you'd think if you'd have someone telling you, you're not going to school, this is your
Pack
one,
of ciggies.
like, this is your one chance. You're giving up all of this. You have to put everything you possibly can into doing this. Otherwise, what's your life going to become? I know people that don't go to school can still lead great lives, but you're at a much greater disadvantage to someone that had a full education. And especially if you were just, what were you doing then? I was just playing hockey. Like, that's all you know. You don't know anything else.
I do have a quote from Bob that kind of sets in his mindset of these kind of behaviours. It was kind of like a cool thing to be able to drink more than anyone else in your team. It was like 12 beers a night. It made me feel good. Yeah, it made me feel good.
He's saying this later.
This is him reflecting back on that time.
Jeez. Like, after your career, and you're like, yeah, it made me feel good.
12 beers? Yeah, it's nothing.
He had a friend, Dave Maxim, for when he was playing in Brantford for the Alexanders. So at this point, he was 17 at least. I recall in Brantford, even being under 19, him going into the bars there. They knew he was underage, and he would still go to the bars, drink, and take the waitress home or whatever.
What?
He got kicked out of his lodging in Brantford after the landlady saw him sneaking out a girl in the morning from the crawl space under the house.
What?
She was jealous, since Bob was sleeping with her as well behind her husband's back.
What the hell?
So
This guy's nuts.
I had one of my Canadian friends explain to me that these junior teams, they have like ballots, which is someone who then opens their home. So nowadays it's usually a parent who then goes, the kids are all travelling together, we have a spare room, we'll take one of the players and they can live with us. This time it would be motels or just someone who is happy to take a little bit of cash to have a bunch of young men in their house. Bob missed the Ontario All-Star team game because he was too hungover from partying the night before. The following day, after he missed the game, he had a meeting where Bob and his teammate Bruce Bell were suspended for 2 weeks, which doesn't seem like a lot, but that's 6 games in your junior career. It was seen as such a big controversy and like massive thing to happen that they both thought it would end their chances to play professional hockey. By the time Bob was eligible for the draft at 18, he was considered medically an alcoholic.
Jeez.
And think, the legal drinking age is 19, where he grew up in Canada.
Is it still 19 in Canada?
It depends on where you are in Canada, but 19
Right.
or 18, depending on the province.
So strange. I guess
Like
if you
one
go to
extra
other
year.
places, it's like
21, 20,
Yeah, well,
25.
Germany's like 16 for
Yeah.
beer and wine, just not
In
spirits.
Italy and France, at like 12 years old, you can have table wine, which is like less alcoholic than wine we drink, but still. So we get to the good news. Bob was drafted 46th overall by the Detroit Redwings in the 1983 NHL entry draft, being their 3rd round pick. He had a reputation that preceded him, as he was 6'3", 225 pounds, or 100 kilos, which were both above average for NHL players at the time. To quote Craig Cox, who was the first player he fought, he was the big boy on the block, without a doubt.
Are most of these draft picks alcoholics?
No.
No.
No, so
So Bob is in the...
he's the outlier
Okay.
for it. Bruce Bell, the other player that got suspended, also did have an NHL career, but he was going up and down from the majors to the minors for his whole career until he eventually retired. I think he had 2 full seasons in the league. But they were both all-star players. They were the best
And he was an
young
enforcer?
players. He wasn't an enforcer. He was just a...
Interesting. Okay.
I didn't see what position he played. Bob was seen as the new gunslinger, And the more established fighters and enforcers in the league would target him to show him his place, to make sure he knew that he wasn't the big guy around anymore.
Like prison rules.
Yeah, you bully the new guy.
Yeah.
And the general rule in the league was, if you survived, then you'd probably be okay in the league. So right in your first debut few games, you're going to be targeted by the enforcers of the other team, because you're meant to be the new enforcer. As time went on, Bob established himself, and he became a huge impact player. Again, to quote Craig Cox, who was Bob's first fight, Bob Probert was unbelievable for any team he played for, because whenever he was dressed, the other team feared him so much that his team looked bigger, stronger, braver.
Dressed.
It's like when you're wearing your gear for hockey. So you're wearing all your pads, your skates. The night before, you have a difficult time sleeping. So Mark LaForest, a teammate, said if he lost a fight, he would fight them right out of the box. So at this time in hockey, fighting, it's against the rules. You get punished. It's like a handball in soccer. It can happen, and it's within the rules of the game for it to happen, but you're punished with a yellow card or a red card if it's unintentional or intentional.
So it's like now you get sent to the box.
Yeah, so
but that's different to a red card. So it was worse back then.
Well, this was
for them.
You got a 5-minute major for fighting. So if we got into a fight, we both get 5 minutes in timeout in the penalty box. And at this time, your penalty box was across from your team's bench. So you had to you're facing each other on opposite sides of the rink. I'm sitting next to your team, Carlin, and you're sitting next to my team in your little fish tank.
Why would they do that? That seems like it's just asking for trouble. Like, be right next to the team that you just got in trouble for fighting.
So the reason was...
It'd be funny.
So,
yeah, that's what I can think of.
So previously, when you had concurrent penalties, meaning two people both got in trouble for fighting, the teams went down to 4-on-4. But they then changed the rule during Bob's career. So at the start of his career, it was still 4-on-4. So then you come out of the box and now both teams are at full strength. When they made it, the team stayed at 5-5. They moved the penalty box to be on the same side and all the players' benches to be on the same side. So then you just go straight back out of play. So Bob, if he ever lost a fight or was deemed that he didn't win, as soon as the 5-minute timer went off, he'd jump out of the box, skate over, and then just punch the person who he fought before, or try to instigate a fight with them. It was just how he was.
It's like when you're disciplining a pet, and it's just like, no, you're in timeout. And you put him behind the door, and then you open it, and then they go straight back into it. And you're like, oh, back out you go.
Didn't learn anything.
Yeah, so there's a quote that talks about this. I remember in St. Louis when he fought Todd Ewing, and down he went. The whole time in the box, I could see him just fuming. And of course, they came right out of the box and right to each other. And Bob, of course, landed a lot of blows. It was retribution of, you can't lose. And then here's a quote from Bob to just get his mindset. I think I wanted to win more than the next guy. You got to be strong. And if you lose a fight, then you're kind of looked at as, kind of a loser or a wimp. Keep in mind that these people voluntarily go out on the ice knowing I might get into a bare-knuckle brawl with another player. I'd say even doing that disqualifies you from being a wimp. But his mindset was, if I lost, I was a wimp for not winning the fight.
Toxic masculinity at its finest.
It's all coming back.
Joey Coker, one of his more famous bruiser teammates, they were known as the Bruise Brothers together in Detroit.
Brothers. It's like the Blues Brothers. Yeah. That's great.
And he said this, sitting in the dressing room before the game, he, Bob, and I would pull out the roster of the other team and we would pick and choose who we were going to go after first and who gets to run the goalie tonight. Running the goalie, I'm assuming you don't know, is seen...
We're wearing NHL jerseys.
Okay, would you like to have a guess of what running the goalie is?
It's when you just slam into the keeper.
Okay, yep, Carlin?
Well, okay, I mean, I guess there's probably got to be something more physical, but I know it's like someone's job to basically stand in front of the goalkeeper and just annoy them. So I imagine it's probably a little bit more than that is running the goalkeeper.
Yeah, so James is closer. So running the goalie is seen as one of, if not the dirtiest thing you can do in hockey. And it breaks the most sacred of the unwritten rules in hockey. The goalie is considered defenseless due to their specialized gear. And their sole purpose is to focus on the puck. So they never think about making contact with other players where all other hockey positions do. Players aren't allowed to impair the goalkeeper's ability to move freely within their crease or defend their goal, or initiate intentional conflict or contact inside or outside of the crease. So they have a little blue box, and that's kind of their crease area. They have to have unrestricted movement there, and then that's what when you're saying someone's standing just outside trying to block their vision and be annoying. So running the goalie could just be you get on the ice, skate right over, and just slam them. Or it could be, in one occasion, a goalie pointed at Probert when he committed a foul. Probert skated up to him and just punched him in the face.
So it's, I mean, like, this is, again, Carlin jumping in football comparisons.
Yeah.
It's like, you know, like fighting someone like off the ball.
Yeah.
Like, you know, oh, you're on the ball, you can get into it. But if you like, you know, go up to someone that's like not on the ball and just smack them, it's like, what are you doing, dude? Like, that's so rude.
So running the goalie at all levels, even in juniors where you're not allowed to fight, will result in both benches clearing and a brawl starting.
As it should.
Yeah. You got to defend your defenseless guy.
Back up the homies.
So we should get into Rule 46 of hockey. So in the modern game, the fighting rules are incredibly comprehensive. There are 26 bylaws under Rule 46, which pertain to who can fight, how they can fight, who is deemed to be the aggressor, who instigates the fight, and the amount of punishments you receive for fighting. If you're considered the instigator and aggressor, so instigator, you're the one that starts the fight. So you drop your gloves and you try to fight someone. If they don't drop their gloves, you're not allowed to hit them, and you get in trouble for instigating a fight. If you both drop your gloves at the same time to start fighting, no one's the instigator. The aggressor is determined when you make more than one consecutive punches or blows to the head of an undefended player. So I've won the fight and I just keep punching.
Okay, I was going to say, it's like, why wouldn't you want to just not fight then because they get a penalty and you don't? But then it sounds like if you don't fight, you get beaten senseless. Yeah. So I can kind of see why they're doing it.
Also, like, adrenaline.
Yeah.
So and the whole sport.
I get that, but
the role is you're the guy that fights people.
So in the modern game, they don't have that same enforcer role. It's more of, okay, you're going to legally check them and bang them into the wall. You're not actually going to start a fight. So if you're deemed to be the instigator and aggressor, so if I drop gloves and then hit you once, then you drop your gloves and fight back, I'm still the instigator. 3 times, you'll get a 2-game suspension. Every further offense doubles the suspension. So the 4th time, it's 4 games. 5th time, 8 games. Up to 32 games, and after that, it's a 1-year ban.
What happens if, like, so I drop my gloves and then James drops his gloves, so I've instigated it, but then James just smacks me, knocks me out. James, no penalty?
So if you both drop the gloves...
But I went first. I was like, I came up to James, I dropped my gloves.
And then James dropped his to start fighting.
Yep.
You're the instigator.
And then James smacks me, I don't even lay a punch.
Then he doesn't get anything wrong because you're not deemed defenseless.
Hell yeah.
That's, love ice hockey. So, this is so good.
So you want to be like pushing them, get them to be like, that's it, I'm fed up. Throw their gloves down, and then you're like, hell yeah. Bang! And
pretty
then just
much.
one-shot them.
Typically the way the fights work...
Sorry. Wild World of Sport does not glorify fighting. Outside of a sporting context.
Yeah. Within safety protocols.
So fighting carries a 5-minute major penalty. If you fight, you're in the bin for 5 minutes. The way fights usually work is both players drop their stick, drop their gloves, they'll face up to each other, they'll start fighting, and then with your non-dominant hand, you'll grab the collar of your opponent, and then you swing at haymakers until one of you's down. So, there's a lot of rules in the modern, but in the early 80s, up to the early 90s, there were considered 3 rules, not 26 bylaws. Fights were until a knockout, the fight went to the ground, or there was deemed by the linesman excessive bloodshed.
It's like, it's going on like knockout or decision.
The second rule was only 2 players are allowed to fight at a time. You can't have a third man come in to join the fight. And
can you come from a fine leg?
No, you can't join in the fight. You get in a lot more trouble if you join in the fight. And the punishment was a 5-minute major penalty. That 2-player fighting rule was only introduced in the late 70s to early 80s. So beforehand, you could just join in and make a brawl, which is why when you run a goalie, that's why Probert and his teammate Joey Coker, the Bruise Brothers, would run the goalie because no one else is allowed to join in. Someone's going to try fight them for it. They then can fight, and no one else can join in that fight. And when they win that fight, they go find someone else and start fighting them. And you've only got 3 officials. So they're the ones that have to break up the fights. So when it's 18 on 18, you're going to go to the ground and it's going to be a lot longer fights.
So in junior football, whatever, we've got kid refs.
Yeah.
So in the NHL, you're telling me in the junior leagues, they've got kid refs that are having to break up fights.
Yeah, so junior hockey now is you're not allowed to fight. But if you're in the professional juniors, then you play NHL rules, so you're allowed to fight, and they'll have the minor league ref equivalent.
Right.
Think about how hard it is to find refs at a grassroots level for football when you play on Saturday or Sunday. Maybe a midweek game here or there if you're at really top level.
You also need MMA ref experience too.
Yeah. And then you're playing 3 games a week at a minimum.
Yeah.
And you need 3 officials. You can get away at a football game just having the one ref in the middle, and then you get 2 parents to run the line, or 2 of the players, or whoever to run the line.
And as well, in real amateurs, it's the other team, home team's coach or something has to ref because, we don't have a coach. So you're going to have to break up the fight? Is the fight ever getting broken up?
Yeah, because it's your guy. It's no, I think it's good. It's a clean fight.
I've got a quote from Bob reflecting on one of his fights.
So far, all of Bob's quotes have just
been sad.
Yeah.
I was fighting Bob McGill, and it was a long fight because F. There was only 3 refs, and everyone was fighting in a big brawl. I just grabbed him and went wham and headbutted him. I had my helmet on still, and his had fallen off.
Oof.
It was just the next thing I thought of doing.
Okay, there's a line.
It's the minute-hour video, though. It's and wham! I hit him one last time.
He was suspended for 4 games.
Yeah,
if you do that in the modern game, you will be suspended indefinitely.
Yeah, there's okay, it's a sport where you're allowed to fight. Sure. But this is a sport, you talk about the keeper being defenseless, someone not wearing a helmet, and you whack them with your helmet. If he wasn't wearing a helmet either, I still don't love the headbutt.
They actually didn't have helmets? The keepers?
No, the keepers had... But interesting, with the helmets, they had something called the grandfather rule. So helmets were introduced in the 1980 season as mandatory. Before then, it wasn't mandatory, it was optional. But they had to grandfather it in because they got so much backlash from current players. So if you were drafted...
I don't want to live. I want CTE. I'm not wearing a helmet.
It was the same thing with mouth guards. Mouth guards were introduced in the early 70s. And
I don't want to eat my food.
Well, a lot of players now, if they lose a tooth, they don't get it fixed till the end of the season.
Jeez.
So you didn't have to wear a helmet. So if you were drafted before 1979, if you didn't want to, you didn't have to wear a helmet. And the helmets didn't have the visors that they do now either. So it progressively got more. So you could just play without a helmet if you were drafted in 79 for your whole career, if you went 20 years.
I feel like just picking up a puck, maybe let alone looking at it, is enough for me to not want to play ice hockey, let alone not wear any protective gear and play ice hockey.
So we'll now get to... That's just a brief introduction to the fighting in the NHL.
Brief?
And there's so much to the history of fighting. So now let's get on to the drugs side of Bob's life.
Oh.
To quote him, the first time I ever did coke was my first year pro. It was the 80s.
I thought he might have been saying, it was when I was 12 and we were on the team bus.
This is what he's admitting to us.
Yeah.
It was the 80s. So every party you went to, everybody had it on them. It was amazing. Probably 70 to 80% of people back then were doing this stuff. The cocaine use, he didn't really like cocaine. He did cocaine to support his drinking problem. Being coked up...
It's like the little old lady swallowed the fly.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
I'm feeling a bit tired from all these beers. Oh, I'll do some cocaine. Oh, I'm feeling too awake from all these beers. Let me do some heroin.
Yeah, so he did the cocaine to support his drinking. Being coked up meant that he could keep drinking for 3 or 4 more hours. So that was one of his teammates who then supplied him the cocaine, saying he just did it so he could drink more.
Surely,
it's at what stage do you need to recognize that you have a problem?
Yeah, and at what stage, I love a beer, but you get to a point, it's okay, I don't need any more beers. I don't want any more beers. I don't think I've been I really want to have more beers, but I can't. Let me do drugs so I can have more.
He definitely had a problem, and for a little bit of spoilers, but it wasn't dealt with well by anyone, his addiction problems. So we'll get to December 19th, 1986. So at this point, this was the end of Bob's first the start of Bob's first full season as a professional, because his first 2 years after being drafted, he was just in the junior team. Bob went out drinking and visited at least 5 bars doing many shooters.
What's that?
Like shots, like set up a line of shots. Bang, 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 bang. He then decided to cross the US-Canada border at the Detroit Windsor
I was wondering what border it was going to be.
Yeah.
I didn't want to ask, but I figured.
and admitted that he was blackout drunk, and in hindsight was stunned that he wasn't detained at the border by the Border Patrol. He then made it 1 street away from the border tunnel when he crashed his car into a traffic pole, causing the concrete base to crumble from the impact. Bob, miraculously without severe injury, continued down Ouellette Avenue and crashed his car through the front window of a local bar and restaurant.
Wait, so his car crashed so hard into the traffic pole that
Side of the car too.
it broke the concrete?
Yeah.
And then the car was still drivable enough that he could crash into a store?
His coach did say, I don't know how he totaled his car in a 30 mile per hour zone, but somehow he managed to do it.
Sounds like he totaled it twice.
So he then kept driving and crashed into a bar and restaurant, and luckily the car came to a stop just before it hit the patrons sitting at the bar.
What car is he driving? Because it sounds like an advertisement right there.
Yeah.
I did say, but I didn't record it thinking it would be relevant. He did say he was pretty bummed out because he spent his signing bonus on it, and he didn't even get it for more than a few months.
I don't think.
Oh no!
I don't think
the
you're allowed to be
consequences
bummed
of my
out. Yeah.
actions.
So he was taken to the local hospital to get treatment for
I
cuts
think
on
he
his
should have been
face,
taken to another local institution.
and he had separated cartilage and bruised ribs. So cartilage around his ribs had separated off the bone. So a pretty serious injury.
And this is right as he's starting his debut.
Yeah,
proper
this is his
season.
first proper season. After receiving the treatment, Bob tried to walk out of the hospital and had to be restrained by Windsor police and the medical staff.
All right, I'm glad the police are now involved.
By this point, he had already been arrested twice by Windsor police.
He's got a loyalty card.
Yeah.
So the executive VP, Jim Lights, said he got into a fight with several Windsor police officers and was beaten quite badly. Once he was released from custody, after spending the night in jail, he headed straight to the Red Wings front office to be screamed at for at least an hour, in his own words. Jim Lights again. We impressed upon him that, you're not a kid anymore. You're a professional athlete now. People are watching. People are always watching.
You're not a kid anymore. You can't go, endangering lives by driving through bars.
And because it matters that they're watching, it's like, no.
Yeah.
They're not just like, that's the wrong thing to do. They're like, oh, people are watching,
And does anyone think, this is a guy in his debut season, so he's getting a little bit of money, but it's not a lot. What do I think is going to happen
I
when...
think he got $65,000 was his first year contract.
Yeah. And a signing bonus that's enough to buy a car is a better job than a lot of people ever have in their life.
$65,000 is really good for the 80s.
Yeah. And that's your debut season. Does anyone ever think, this is what he's doing with his money when he's got a little bit of it? What's going to happen when we give him a lot?
Well, it was I know now the league minimum's $950,000.
Wow.
So if you're signed, minimum pay is this. So the top round picks then can negotiate for performance incentives. So they go, you're being paid the base salary, but if you score X amount of goals, we'll give you more money and those kind of things. By this time already, Bob's behaviour was a recurring problem, with the news headline, one in the Detroit newspaper saying, Bob Probert, it's the same old tune. In court, his lawyer recalled that the judge posed to Bob that he was the heavyweight champion of hockey. Bob proudly agreed that yes, he was a hockey player, and yes, he was the best fighter in the league, and said he would be the only player he would be scared to fight, would be himself.
Sounds like he's scared to deal with a lot of the emotional trauma that he has.
I know we're well past the name now too, but I find it ironic it's Probert because he's always probing people.
Yeah.
So following, they went to recess, and Bob went to his lawyer and apologized and said, I wasn't very good in there, was I? And he was charged with resisting arrest, and police testimony suggested that at times Bob was beating multiple officers so badly they had to increase their level of force to restrain him. And his lawyer said, no, they weren't good answers. The Red Wings suspended Probert until he had finished rehab for his alcoholism problem.
So this is one rehab?
This is one rehab.
Should we have a counter going for how
I do
many?
have a counter at the end. I don't talk about every time he goes to rehab, though. At the rehab clinic, he hit it off with one of the counsellors, who he started a relationship with, and she became his girlfriend.
That's healthy.
That's like
And
the
invited
Joker and like
Yeah,
Harley Quinn.
And he invited her back home, and he was staying with his mother at the time. His lawyer said, to quote, "Even some of his treatment counselors would fall for his line." And I'm thinking, these are seasoned treatment officers. They should absolutely know better. Everyone with those addictions becomes a con man or con woman, and he could con anyone to thinking that he was okay.
It's like, as well, you say that, and I know it's the 80s, it's a bit different, but there's a rule one, don't go home with your patients. Like, how do you, never met him, never really heard him talk except through you, but how do you manipulate someone to get to that level of,
I think the answer
I
really
like
is
you.
it's the 80s. Cause
Yeah.
When he was drafted as well, he was the beautiful boy. He was the, best looking player, 6'3", jacked. He was very commented on his looks a lot. Bob quoting again, "I was probably 3 treatment centers within the first 3 years, which was stupid because I was still going to bars with my teammates."
Jesus.
Who's he calling stupid here? 'Cause-
Himself.
Okay.
So he wasn't always the driving force with his addictions. So when he was in the junior program, he started drinking to fit in. He felt isolated with his father dying and his brother not making it to the same level. But he drank to fit in, and it gave him more confidence.
Look,
He then took it too far, and he has to own those
yeah,
things.
I don't want to victim blame here, but fool me once, shame on me. Fool me however many times, and there's always going to be an excuse. There's always going to be a reason. Personal responsibility has to come.
Don't
in somewhere.
cast too much judgment on him until you hear some of the things that happens.
Well, I was going to say too, it's like, I don't know. Trauma does a lot of things. We've obviously he's had this tough upbringing. And as well, there's the trauma of that, but then also there's the drinking and whatnot as a youth. It's hard to blame him. It's like something that those professionals should have been helping him out of, rather than following him to make it keep happening.
Some teammates and some of the staff at the Red Wings have said that he made a reasonable attempt at rehab. When he would go out, he would tell his teammates he wouldn't be drinking. He would then encourage him to drink. And when he refused, would buy him drinks. And if he still didn't drink, they would call into question his masculinity in calling him a bitch or a pussy for not drinking. And that, we know, is a soft spot for him. And he would drink. And he says, in the end, I always gave in and said okay, and I drank. After his arrest, when he crashed his car and then re-crashed it again, there was an internal meeting at the Red Wings where they asked who was responsible for his behaviours. No one put their hand up, so assistant coach Colin Campbell said, "I will be personally responsible for Bob's behaviour." Colin then is quoted saying, "We were selfish. We knew how good Bob was and how much he could help us, so we didn't fix it the way we had to fix it. He spent a lifetime getting to the way he did, and we thought we could fix it in 7 to 10 days. We tried a lot of things to get Bob's drinking under control, including a pill called Antabuse, which made you violently ill when you drink.
Does cocaine nullify the effects of that?
Well, we won't know, since someone in the Red Wings staff swapped out those pills with sugar pills or Advil.
Jesus, that's like a criminal liability.
Without
surely.
him knowing or Bob knowing. The only way they figured it out is because at training, they went, someone's been drinking, and they found out it was Bob, checked the pills, and they weren't his medications. And he didn't know he was being given them either. Jim Lights, the VP, said that they'd hired not one, but a team of private investigators to keep a tab on Bob, but, to quote, "It didn't last long. None of the news was very good."
It almost sounds like they're doing it on purpose because they don't like him.
Yeah.
Well, so...
And, sorry, just before you
please.
go, how good must this guy be to be absolutely slaughtered? Like, at training, he's drinking.
Yeah.
Like, he must be amazing at hockey. It's one of those ones. How good would he have been without the alcohol?
So, my kind of personal take on this is he was so good at what he did, they didn't want to take anything away from it. So if he stops drinking, maybe he'll be a different player and not be as good. So, the assistant coach, Colin Campbell, admitted, we didn't do anything to really help him. We went, you've got a serious addiction problems, we'll spend 7 days talking about it. We'll make you go to rehab for 7 days, now you can play again. Because they wanted them in the team. So, we'll get to the 1987-88 season, which is Bob's best season of his career. And by 1987, he was the fan favourite in Detroit. There were more Probert jerseys than any other jersey, his teammate Sheldon Kennedy said. And to quote Sheldon Kennedy again, Bob was an asset to the team, and if he wasn't an asset, then trust me, they wouldn't have put up with it as long as they did, his drinking and drug problems. Another teammate, Jeremy Roenick, said he was almost Mr. Detroit. It was like he could do anything in Detroit and get away with it. So, how good was he? By the start of his 1987 season, he had 100 career games with the Wings. He scored 21 goals and got 24 assists. Had a plus-minus of -21, which means when he's on the ice through the 100 games, more goals was conceded than scored by his team. He did have 407 penalty minutes off 98 penalties and 35 career fights in his first 100 games. So 1 in 3 games, he got into a proper punch-up.
And that's like by the letter of the rule, we're considering this a fight.
Yeah, not just a tussle. This was a full blows punch-up. And just keep in mind, these fights averaged between 20 and 45 seconds, and some of the longest ones would go to 90 seconds. He was already, at this time, considered one of the best fighters in the game. And I'll bring up that quote again from Craig Cox, who was Bob's first opponent. Bob was unbelievable for any team he played for, because whenever he was dressed, the other team feared him so much that his team looked bigger, stronger, and braver. So I brought up the Bruise brothers, Joey Croker and Bob Probert. So in the 1983 entry draft, the Red Wings only drafted players who were over 6 feet, which was unusual at the time. Now the average size is like 6'3", but at the time, 6 foot was you're a big boy. They did so poorly the previous season, especially on the physical front, that they thought an easier chance for success was drafting big than drafting good. Which makes sense. If you've got measurables, you go, we've got a better chance than, we need to find the best value person in the draft. Joey Croker talking here, his teammate and the Bruise brother. When Bob and I came to Detroit, the Wings weren't winning. They were known as the Dead Wings at the time. Fans would even hold up signs saying the Dead Wings because they were that bad.
We won Stanley Cups. It's fine.
People started talking to us and calling us the Bruise Brothers. If the team scored, not too many people would be standing up. But every time someone dropped their gloves, the entire stadium stood up to watch.
Okay, admittedly, and I know we weren't condoning the violence, but that is a little bit how it was like when we were watching the ice hockey in Canberra.
Yeah.
We're like, oh, this is good, but then someone would like barge someone into the the winner. Like, get it!
There was a fight that Bob had with Ty Domi, who is one of the other legends of the sport for like being an enforcer, and they got a commentator, Don Cherry, to come there, and there'd been talk about it's about hockey, it's not about the violence, but it was a rematch, so it was Domi versus Probert in like the advertisements for the game. It was like a boxing match.
Yeah.
And people went to go see the fight than the hockey match. And people were saying this is disgusting. And the commentator said, the 22,000 people in the building, how many of you got up to go get a cup of coffee? How many of you watched? All of you. Kind of thing to go. You can not like it in the game, but when it happens, it's so captivating.
All you could do was watch.
So the 1987-88 season was Bob's best with the Wings. And it was his first just playing with the Wings, having no appearances for the minor teams. So in the regular season, he scored 29 goals, which put him 59th out of 735 players in the league. 62 total points, which is goals plus assists. And if you didn't know, to get an assist isn't just the person who passes it, it goes 2 steps. So if I pass to James, he passes to Carlin, Carlin scores, James and I both get an assist.
Passes.
So he had 62 points, which made him 74th. He had 398 penalty minutes, which ranked him first. And he had 24 fights in the regular season, which is 1 every 3 games on average, which equates to 1 a week for the season. For 24 weeks, he had a fight every single week, a bare-knuckles boxing match.
It's kind of less than I was expecting, to be honest. I thought he was just fighting all the time.
That's a lot of fights, though. Like you think you're playing 3 games a week, and you're getting concussed no matter what. You're getting punches to the head.
And this is
just to the head.
To fight as well, the other person has to start fighting as well. So I'm sure a lot of other teams would be, don't engage with Bob, don't engage with Bob. Like, get their enforcer on there to just bruise each other a little bit. Don't fight. Whatever you do, don't fight.
Problem was Bob was so crazy that they felt obliged to fight him early. Otherwise, he would just go after someone. He would stick him in the neck. He would trip them. He would just throw a punch. And he'd do it because he was crazy enough to.
So he drank a lot in training. Is he drinking and like doing
All
coke
the
for these
time.
games?
All the time. He was
Okay.
yeah, so he was just, he came to training hungover and smelling of alcohol and had a stash in things. And they didn't do enough, but he's responsible for it as well. Okay, in the postseason, because hockey stats, they only count the regular season for things. Your postseason stats are a completely different category. So if you score 100 goals in your career and then 30 goals in the playoffs, you have 100 career goals and 30 career playoff goals. So they just separate the stats completely.
I think that makes sense. Because the playoffs, it's a completely different level of game. And as well, you're playing the same team 7 times in a row if it goes to game 7.
And not all players play in the playoffs. So it's trying to balance it. But in the postseason, he had 16 games, 8 goals and 13 assists for 21 points, and 51 penalty minutes. He also shot at a 30.8% rate. So 3 out of every 10 shots he scored, which is a really, really good.
That's insane considering a keeper like 900.
Yeah, 900 seen as good keeping if you only let him 1 in 10. And he had 2 fights. He broke Gordie Howe's playoff point record, which had stood for 33 years. So in the 16 games, he got 21 points, which was phenomenal. Gordie Howe, if you don't know, is a legend of the game and has a stat named after him, known as the Gordie Howe hat trick. Do you want to have a guess on how you get that hat trick?
You score a goal.
Yep.
You assist a goal, and you get into a fight.
Win a fight.
Win a fight.
Or not
knock
lose
someone.
a fight. You can't lose the fight. So even if the voting says you win the fight, unless it's by knockout or stopped by the refs, it's a draw. Is kind of how it works.
So who's voting? Is that the fans voting?
Well, there is a fan website where people vote on all fights that happen, but the idea is it was a draw or you won a lot. Like if you get cut and you're bleeding so badly the ref stopped, you lost.
Right.
If you knock them out, you won. If you get knocked to the ground, you lost, kind of.
It's like split decision, like, MMA win. It's like, oh, the other guy was pretty good, like, but I guess this guy edges.
So that stat is named after Gordie Howe, the Red Wings player, and he was a great of the game, and it's to signify skillful brilliance and toughness in the same player. Gordie Howe only had 2 Gordie Howe hat tricks. Bob had 16 in his career.
Why did they name after him?
3rd all time.
Wow. Yeah,
at the
maybe
lowest.
they thought, ooh, this guy's... We don't want something named after this guy.
He was the only person to do it, though. He was the first person to do it, so that's why they named it after him. And these aren't an official stat. They're a fan stat. So people then go back through the games to then find it. So there's not a conclusive number, but the top 5 are all, it's 18, 17,
like,
16, 16, 15.
What's it called? Like the perfect hat trick? Like you get the header and then left foot, right foot.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and it's like, obviously that's just like, it's not, no one tracks
It's a hat
that,
trick. You
but
got a hat trick.
It's still...
You know yourself. It's like,
Yeah.
whoa, this is cool.
His bruised brother, Coker, quoting here, no one wanted to play against him in the 87-88 season. He scores 29 goals and 398 penalty minutes, plays in the All-Star game. I mean, he was just that valuable. In the All-Star game, he played on the same line. So you've got line 1, 2, 3, and 4. Your best players are line 1, second best, third best, and your fourth line's your utility players. Bob was put on the first line with Gretzky, greatest to ever play, and Mark Messier, who is another great of the game.
Messi.
Coincidence?
I can't verify these, but I saw social posts and like fan chat things saying Bob was only going to be allowed at the All-Star game if he agreed not to fight Gretzky, because hockey at the time had something called the Gretzky rule, which was you don't touch Gretzky, you don't check him, you don't try fight him, because he's so good, he brings so much revenue and audience to the sport. When he's injured, it's bad for everyone. So
is this an unwritten rule?
It was an unwritten rule of the game.
It seems
you
a
don't
little
touch
cheap.
Gretzky.
Like, because I see like coaches get angry when people go after like their star players, and it's like, whoa, what are they trying to do and whatever. But it's like, it's part of the game.
Imagine
Get
though
in on
in training, it's like Messi's on your team. don't slide tackle him. If you slide tackle him, you're cut from the team because
Well, that's
what are you doing?
but
you
that's
idiot?
different when it's like your player.
Yeah, but the idea was I could be paid $65,000 for an entry contract. Gretzky's so good and so captivating. Next year, getting 85 for $20,000 a year. I won't touch him. It was kind of the unwritten rule.
And if anyone's going to break the unwritten rule, it'd be Bob.
So, but I can't confirm that. I just saw people talk about it. They could be joking, but the fact that they would even joke
Consider
about that
it,
is something. But even though he was such a great fighter, he was there on his skillful play. He was in that top line for his skill.
I mean, the stats you rattled off sound pretty good, considering he was off the ice for that many minutes.
Yeah, he missed, what's that? That's 8 games in that season worth of penalty time that he was just not playing. And that doesn't even count the suspensions he got for probably doing something a bit naughty.
Yeah.
So Stu Grimson, a former player, said, Bobby was so valuable that the team looked the other way for a long while. The night he broke Gordie Howe's playoff point record. It was Game 4 in the conference finals, which is the semi-finals. In the game against Edmonton, and Wayne Gretzky and Messier, they played for Edmonton, broke the record scoring 2 goals in a 5-3 loss, putting the Wings down 3-1 in the best-of-7 series. The team went out to celebrate. Roughly 8 to 10 players, broke curfew, and went to Goose Loonies, a club in Edmonton.
It's a good name.
I was thinking that. Goose Loonies.
Get a loose at the goose.
Colin Campbell, the assistant coach, who's personally responsible for Bob's behaviour, came to the club to get the players. There were a couple of players that were playing, and a lot of the guys were hurt. And Bob was there, and to quote, I was more upset that they allowed Bob to drink, when they all knew the problem he had. That implies to me that the other teammates had been told, don't let him drink, don't encourage it, and they were oblivious to it. Or just ambivalent? Benevolent? No.
Ambivalent.
Ambivalent, that's the one.
Hypertrophy.
To it. But also, he breaks...
I'm going to clip that. That's definitely going to clip.
Ambivalent.
Yeah.
Ambivalent.
Benevolent.
So even they go, you broke a 33-year record, have a drink, celebrate. You should know better. If one of us had a serious problem with substance abuse, even if you did something amazing, I'm not going to encourage you guys to then have that substance you have a problem with.
Yeah, who'd set up a podcast as an excuse to drink in their garage with their mates?
Carlin.
Crazy.
You got me.
Detroit sports writer Keith Gave found out about the clubbing and asked the head coach, Jacques Demers, about it. And Jock's face, to quote Keith, turned white. He took a deep breath, and he leaned back and spilled his guts.
Ooh.
Jock went on and on and on about how disappointed he was with the team and how idiotic his players were and how they let their teammates and the fans down. In a team meeting before Game 5, Jock said, quote, if you win tonight's game, you might be on the back page of the sports section. If you lose, it's going to be front page. They lost, and it was front page news. The headline for the Detroit local newspaper read, Red Wings star misses key goal, staying sober.
Huh.
The subheader read, one night after breaking Gordie Howe's playoff record, he broke his coach's heart.
Oh,
sad.
After the season, because the season was over now, head coach Jacques called Bob a cancer to the team. He had some more struggles, and they're referenced, and I'll go through them now. So Dave Maxim, his friend from earlier, who said that he didn't really like fighting, says, I quote, I remember him telling me about playing against the New York Islanders, and not remember even being on the ice. He was so high. And Bob, on being a drug addict, I felt like everyone knew that you were doing it. Like they know. Like that almost paranoid feeling. Like they know. 20,000 people watching you, right? And that's word for word quote. I'm not that.
you're not messing it
I'm
up
not
and
that,
stumbling.
yeah.
Yeah.
He does have... He talked over himself a lot in the interviews and stuff he did before he passed away. Former player Chris Chelios. Coke was a drug that was widely used in the NHL. That's pretty scary when you got a guy chasing you around on the ice that's doing cocaine. It seems like it gave you crazy strength and energy. It was dangerous. But it's fair enough criticism to then go, it doesn't seem fair or safe if you're just there as a regular guy and this person's on cocaine, and their job is to beat you up.
Well, yeah, I suppose in that sense it
Illegal.
could be a performance-enhancing
Yeah.
drug. Like, you're not going to feel as well, I guess.
So now we get to March 2nd, 1989. Probert was out drinking with his girlfriend Danny and a few others when they decided to cross the Windsor-Detroit tunnel. When he was stopped at the border for having expired immigration papers, with a cursory inspection of the vehicle, Border Control saw multiple empty liquor bottles, spirits, and many beer cans. They quoted to his lawyer, "It was as if Probert was inviting a search of the vehicle." A check of his person found a mill, which is a tool for grinding cocaine into the fine powder, and 14.3 grams of cocaine in his underwear.
14.3 grams.
That is quite a bit for cocaine.
Colin Campbell, the assistant coach who was personally responsible for his behaviour, recalled that Bob almost wanted to be caught. Or at least that's what he told him.
Kind of sounds like a cry for help, to be honest.
Yeah.
And recanted a story in which one of the border officers, travelling from Windsor to the US, encouraged Bob to go to the washroom multiple times. I imagine it was something like, "You need to go to the bathroom, don't you?" It's like, no, he goes, "Go to the bathroom. You have something to flush." Trying to help him out and get him off the drug smuggling charges. Bob then took the hint, went to the bathroom, was
Did a
about
bunch
to
of
flush it, and then realised, no, and just tried to snort it all. And
What?
left and said, "It looked like I left it after trying to fit a jelly donut up my nose, a powdered jelly donut up my nose."
How much was he trying to snort?
14.3 grams.
He's dead.
Yeah, that killed
He's
the man.
dead.
I don't think he got it all up, but it was pretty just, the bag
Been
and
all
just
over the place, yeah.
up, and his nose is bleeding. He's got powder all over his face.
Oh, that's... Oh, yeah, you say
Oh, it hurts
before
my
it was a
nose
cry
just
for
thinking
help,
about
but
that.
that's...
I think it's still
He's-
a cry
he's-
for help.
Yeah,
This
no, but
man's
like
not
you said,
mentally well,
getting
yeah.
caught with it's a cry for help. Now doing this...
His girlfriend, who then became his wife, Danny, said this was the first time she realised he had a problem with alcohol and drugs.
Wow.
Did she have a problem too?
Was she blind?
I think it was because he, as I said earlier, he was a commie. He could just be okay. And if he was drinking 12 beers a night from the ages of 15 or 16, he'd have such a tolerance that he maybe didn't act super drunk.
But
or
even
was
so,
good at
like,
masking it.
If you're like a regular person looking at someone drinking 9 beers a night, that's not a normal thing to do. And looking at a person drink 9 beers and then act like they're sober, that's got to raise some sort of flags. Like, looking at someone that drinks 3 beers a night, you'd go, okay, maybe why are you drinking
They're light
beers
beers. They're
every
only
night?
half a standard each. You're still going to go, why do you need that every night?
Yeah.
It was her own admission, and we're not in her head or anything to know that.
Yeah, again, I don't want to
Yeah.
blame her for seeing this. We don't know, like you said, he's a con man and everything.
So
But
he was facing a 20-year prison sentence for drug smuggling. And by this point, he had already been to rehab a confirmed 5 times.
it might not have been the stupidest thing then to try and snort it all himself. It's like, no, it was... I'm not smuggling it to sell. It was only for personal use. See, I can do 14
I'm
grams.
a serious addict. This would
Yeah.
last me a few days.
Yeah.
That it would be a defense in court.
And by this time, he had been arrested for over more than a dozen times. Sorry. Yeah, been arrested at least a dozen times. Media speculated that it would be the end of his career and he would serve a lengthy prison sentence and ultimately be deported from the US. And Border Force said they were seeking a deportation no matter what. Windsor residents, where Bob lived, when they were asked, said he should face the maximum punishment and we should only feel sorry for his family. NHL commentators Don Cherry used Probert as a warning case for young players to say no to drugs. To quote, "Here's a guy, a big guy, 6'3", 3-year contract. He had Detroit in the palm of his hands. Everybody loved him. And now it's gone, all because of some junk." One of his teammates, he said, "I have sympathy for Bobby because I think his problems have gone beyond his own control. And I think even if he wanted to change, he needed more help than just himself to do it." And I think that also alludes back to Campbell's comments going, we were really selfish, we didn't really do anything to help him. And then again, someone in the office
Not only
replacing his
didn't help
medication.
him, they made it worse actively.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
that is not, that's like, there's being a bystander, sure, and be like, oh, well, let's just let him drink. But no, they actively made it worse.
I saw other reports of how teammates were told to then encourage him to keep drinking or to do drugs when they were out. None of that's confirmed, but I saw, people saying that
considering that the pills have been swapped out and there's they were actively.
I think there's plausibility to go.
Not necessarily everyone, but
They weren't being good teammates by saying, no, you shouldn't drink, and stopping him. Don't invite him out partying. Just go, you broke Gordie Howe's record. Let's go have, a team. We'll have one drink in the hotel room and celebrate. And when we've won this series, then we'll have a real celebration. His other teammates were less sympathetic, at least in public when talking to the media, calling on the league to ban him for life and disavowing his character and his behaviours, saying they never supported it and it was always an issue and he'd get special treatment.
Did the team ever think that, because their logic of, well, he plays this good when he's drunk and high, that we've got to keep him drunk and high? They ever think, wonder how good he'd play if we got him sober? Just as a test. Let's see what would happen.
Well, I think if he wasn't an enforcer, he probably would play better when he's not drugged up or drunk. But you think alcohol, your pain tolerance goes higher. You're on cocaine, your energy is higher. Your pain tolerance, again, goes lower for the job he had to do. And I think they probably went, we don't want to change anything.
But they didn't even think to try. And it's
which is
like the assistant coach
awful.
think, oh, okay, you're in charge of his behavior. It's like, you should be in charge of the other people's behavior. It's like he was doing a fine job of trying to help Bob out. And, it's these other people that he needed to be controlling.
So the negative comments from his teammates incensed Bob because the way he saw it was that he spent years protecting his teammates from physical abuse on the ice, and he had the scars to prove it. He felt betrayed that they would badmouth him publicly, and when they called for him to be banned, it just made him furious. Because I guess from his perspective, I'm out there getting into fights every 3 games to stop you from getting hurt. At least have my back in public. Just say, he's gone through some things, I support him, I hope he gets better. You don't have to go, he should be banned, he's awful, he's a cancer on the team. Even his coach was out to get him. Probert was sentenced to 6 months in a federal penitentiary in Minnesota. His cellmate was an 18-year-old who was serving 14 years for killing his best friend after a fight turned violent. He stabbed his friend to death.
They locked him up in the US.
Yep.
They didn't send him back to Canada.
Because you'd have to finish his sentence in the US to then be deported out of the country.
Otherwise, they wouldn't necessarily have any jail time.
Yeah, because then if you send him back to Canada, then it's not because he's crossed into the US and being caught in the US for smuggling drugs.
There,
yeah. And he said, I slept every night with one eye open. And he hated it in there. And his the executives and Campbell visited him in jail and said it was an awful place. And I imagine all prisons are. And
especially in the US.
Deserved. But very light sentence for a 20-year maximum sentence to 6 months. And after the sentence, didn't get deported.
Would have been different if he wasn't from Canada.
Yeah.
Just 1 year after, in March 24th, 1990, he took the ice for the Detroit Red Wings again. And received... How do you guess he was received by the fans?
By the fans?
Cheers. I'd hope so.
Yeah.
But I'm guessing boos.
I mean...
I'm hoping for cheers. Cheers.
I'm hoping... I can imagine cheers because they loved him despite all the other sort of stuff that was going on. Then there was a big media beat-up after they'd lost where whether it was right or wrong, they were looking for a scapegoat and they chose him. And then I'm sure it was publicised that he was in jail and you could spin that to be, oh, he's, turned a corner, he's going to be a better man. And look, we've got him back on the ice. Because I imagine that's how they'd have to spin it if they wanted to get him back on the team. They couldn't go, oh, yeah, and our guy that got locked up, he's coming back. Then people wouldn't want that. Teammates wouldn't want it. Fans wouldn't want it.
When he was in the court trial and getting the sentence, he said, I just hope that I can come back to hockey to just right the wrongs. I'm sorry to my family, fans, but I'd like to get back to hockey to right the wrongs that I've done. He received chants of his name, Probie. He scored in his first game back and a total of 3 goals in the 4 remaining games in that season, including 1 fight.
So he sort of kept his percentage up there for the fights.
Did he start the fight? Or you don't have the info?
I don't have the information if he started that one.
Let's give him the benefit of the doubt.
I wouldn't be starting the fight with him. This guy that's just come out of jail and wants to right the wrongs.
But I'd go, that would be the perfect time because he's not on coke. He's not being able to exercise and train. I guess he was only 6 months in jail, so he had 6 months to get
think about all the
it,
pent-up emotions because he is very clearly a person that does not deal with his emotions well.
I feel like someone would have been like, oh, screw this guy and been out to check him. Though.
Yeah. I guess if this is what Enforcer's mentality was, then the other team, it wouldn't be quite the same level that Bob had. But thinking that way, yeah, I can see why someone would do it.
So far, we've talked about some important moments in Bob's career, but this is a very important one also. October 4th, 1990. Bob fought Troy Crowder. Crowder won the fight, leaving Bob bleeding profusely from above his right eye. Bob claimed that the reason he lost the fight was because he stood on a drop stick and it made him lose his balance. He did step on a stick and it did make him lose his balance, but that was considered Bob's first loss.
Wow.
6 years in the league. A minimum of 68 fights.
And because there was a very clear reason that it happened. And not the clear reason was this guy was faster,
And he was
stronger,
also probably
more
sober
powerful.
now too.
Yeah. Yeah, him before, he would have had that, like, drunk stumblingness and just been able to, I slipped on something. I'm fine. I'll keep going.
So Crowder recalled, Bob, I don't think really lost a fight up until that point, so it was a big thing. Headlines in the papers read, Crowder puts dent in Probert's crown. There then grew a narrative that Troy Crowder was the new up-and-coming best fighter, and Bob was on the decline. Time in jail and all the suspensions and bans had then taken it out of him. Till we get to January 28th, 1991, the rematch. Don Cherry and Ron McLean, the big announcer people, drove down to the game expecting the fight of a rematch. Probert knocked Crowder to the ground with a right hook. And I'll give Don Cherry's explanation of the fight. It was like a heavyweight championship fight. It was unbelievable. The puck was at the other end of the ice, but they kept their eyes on Bob and Troy. And sure enough, they get into it. And Bob hits him so hard that his helmet went about 10 feet in the air and laid him out with a right hook. That put to bed the idea that Troy Crowder was the new champion. And as I've said before, if he lost a fight, he wanted to fight again.
Yeah.
Stu Grimson said, I think it had a lot to do with his personal disregard for his own physical well-being. The emotional drain of having to get up for a battle with a guy like Probert, that can really consume your thoughts and state of mind. You just felt like there was no way you could hurt him. Reed Simpson, another former player, he had that Bob Probert look, like I want to kill you. He wanted to kill you every time you fought. Tony Twist, another former player, for Bob's generation of hockey, he was the measuring stick. And if you're the stick, it means you're the man. Jeremy Roenick, when he was in his wild and crazy days in Detroit, you never knew what he was going to do. It was that sense of not knowing that sometimes was more fearful about Bob. There was also an honour amongst enforcers. In one fight with Marty McSorley, a fight that went on for well over a minute, Bob got his finger stuck in Marty's helmet. And when he yelled out, Marty stopped the fight, called the officials over to remove Bob's finger. Bob then dressed going, that was a really class act. So they both knew they were going out, their job is to get into fights. But they had that code go, there's no need for me to pull my helmet back, break his finger, or do anything for the sake of this fight. We've both got our energy out, we've done our jobs.
Seems like something Bob would have definitely done.
He would have
in the
broken a
early
finger.
days,
Yeah. Early days, he would have broken that finger. So Bob quoting, no, I didn't get paid any extra money to effing go in there and fight. But I'm the best fighter, the heavyweight champion, as every newspaper says, will pay me like an effing champion then. That was after his initial contract with the Wings expired. July 15th, 1994. Just after 1 year after his wedding, which he was 40 minutes late to, by the way.
What?
And with his first child expected in a matter of weeks, Bob went to a local deli to get a sandwich.
Sorry, how long after his wedding? Was
1
it?
year.
1
just over
year,
1
okay.
year. He got married 1993, 1st of July. And he
I was gonna say-
45 minutes late.
I was going to say, if his wife was heavily pregnant at the wedding and he was 40 minutes late, that sounds like a terrible combination for her and for the unborn child.
So he went to the local deli to get a sandwich where the owner convinced him to do shots. He was a Russian and said it was tradition when you're getting married to have a shot. And you're also having a baby, so you have to do more shots. And they drank and drank. Bob then got on his motorbike and headed to the casino. And I'll quote from him, The light turned yellow, and I was effed up. And I clipped the front of the Lexus. I was flying through the air. The whole intersection was cement, and I landed on the corner of the cement. And I must have flipped onto the grass because I split my elbow and separated my shoulder. His lawyer recalled, when talking to the arresting officers, who then looked over Bob to make sure he's okay, Bob had said, "Charge me with the usual."
Loyalty card, stamp.
See, again, like, the whole time this story's going, I'm sort of with you guys of, yeah, there's a lot of people that aren't helping him. A lot of people aren't helping him. But at the same time, we have to blame him for this one, surely. Some guy in the deli says, "Oh, do these shots." It's not that hard to just say no. Like, I get, oh, he's got a problem, he's got this, he's got that, and I know I'm sort of victim blaming. But, like, come on. Come on.
And for a few years, he had been relatively clean.
And it's like, wouldn't it be nice if he could? But it's like, again, it's like that sometimes there is like no coming back from childhood trauma. I don't know.
In the hospital, they took blood work and things and showed that he also had cocaine in his system. This is the drunk driving where he had a blood alcohol content of 0.31. This story broke the media in Detroit. They could no longer say, he's married, expecting a child, he's going to settle down. And the Red Wings cut him the next day. 24 hours later, Bob was meeting with the owner of the Chicago Blackhawks in his townhouse in Chicago. The accident that should have killed him instead took him to $1 million annual raise. He went up to $1.5 million a year for 4 years. Bob missed the first year of that contract to go to rehab for 8 months.
Was he still getting paid?
He forfeited the pay for that season by not playing. His child was born. He spent 4 days with them before being in rehab for 8 months. Part of his contract was random drug tests that could be administered at every time. If he failed, he had 4 hours to complete a secondary test. If he still failed, his contract would be voided. In his words, "They gave me a choice. Stay straight and get my money and then go do what I want, or don't."
It kind of sounds like they're treating him better than the Red Wings did.
But, like, the morality of it a little bit. Like, oh, you just got cut because you, once again, endangered your life and other lives by being an addict. Here's $1 million. Like, that's one of the things about sports that's just really dirty.
Like Mason Greenwood, it's like,
Yeah.
would you just go, "Oh, yep, here's $1 million, come back, and then just don't, beat anyone." That's just, that's kind of ridiculous. You're right.
Bob Probert managed to stay sober for the rest of his career after that rehab.
That's good.
But then
So
there we go.
I think that
that's a
is
good
more
thing.
damning on the Red Wings
Yeah.
than anyone else. If they
100%.
said, "You're banned from this season, you go on a rehab and you're getting help."
It sounds like the Red Wings had an awful, awful culture at the time.
Wife Danny said that he was a completely different person, and having children, it just was something that was a factor in it as well.
I didn't want to say until you said what happened, but when you said, oh, he saw his kid for 4 days, then went to rehab for 8 months. If he then went back on it, I know I'd have less sympathy for him than you two, but zero sympathy for that. Like, you've seen your child, hold it in your arms, go to rehab for 8 months. You're leaving your wife to look after your child on her own because you're dealing with your problem. I'm not saying that's a selfish thing to do, but inherently leaving your wife with your child is a selfish thing. To then come back, and then if you get back on it again, it's like, I don't care how bad your childhood was or what everyone else is doing around you. It's not just your life and other people around you. It's your child's life now.
So we can all agree he got way too many chances for a professional athlete who's in the limelight and was glorified for some of the things he did because it made him a better player, allegedly. But how good was he as a player? Bob Probert played for 17 seasons. He missed 2, one from his year in rehab and one for his jail sentence. He played 935 games, scoring 163 goals and 384 total points. He had 3,300 penalty minutes in the regular season, which is 55 games worth of penalties. When you include his suspensions, about 9% of the games he missed from fighting or fighting-related things. He had 304 career fights, 246 of them coming in the NHL regular season and playoffs, meaning the rest came in pre-season or in exhibition games. And think, the average fight was 20 to 40 seconds. He was 5th all-time in penalty minutes and 4th all-time in fights. Bobby Gunn, a name we haven't mentioned, is the most decorated bare-knuckle boxer in history, having a record of 73-0.
Wow. That's pretty crazy.
3-minute bouts, 3 rounds, so at most 9 minutes. Probert spent estimatedly 2 hours of his hockey career fighting. So even if you break that up, it's still 40 matches of bare-knuckle boxing.
I don't mean to like take this to like a really well, it's not light and happy place, but like just changing the subject a little bit. But it's like, you know, do you have like a lot of these guys, like, you know, obviously really good at fighting? Does it end up having like a Volk scenario or like a Barry Hall scenario where it's like they've gone from one sport to then becoming like boxers after it?
No, Bob, he did get in a boxing match with a teammate who called him out and he left him like bloodied and unconscious on the ground and just left. And then the guy the next day, they all made fun of him because he put his wife's makeup on to cover his black eyes and broken nose.
Because, I mean, like, obviously, you know, the fighting's good, bad, depends how you look at it. But it's like a lot of these guys could have had a career in boxing after that.
It sounds like
maybe they should have gone and done that.
Yeah, ready for a promoter to come in and go, I want you. You've got the name of being the fighter. You can come and get bums on seats.
So I think we're not a hockey expert and we didn't have to play with or against him. So I'm going to leave it to someone, Stu Grimson, former player. The ability to score 20 or more goals and the ability to operate as the heavyweight champion of the NHL for the majority of his career, you'd be hard-pressed to find that combination in one person throughout all of NHL history. He had 9 seasons with over 200 penalty minutes as well. That's another stat. Okay. Bob died of a heart attack at the age of 45. His brain was donated to science, and he was one of the first players to be diagnosed with severe CTE in hockey. After this realization, Ty Domi, who has the record for most fights, who is another legendary enforcer, and Bob fought him a few times, made it known that he doesn't want to know how much brain damage that he has from fighting. Fittingly, some of Bob's ashes were spread in the Detroit Redwings penalty box. Bob Probert is considered one of, if not the greatest enforcers in NHL history, and is a true legend of the game. His jersey is still one of the most sold for the Red Wings, and the mark he's left on the league is 1 of 1. Because of the new modern stipulations and restrictions on fighting, it is almost impossible that we see another enforcer like Bob Probert ever again. But that is the story of Bob Probert, a player so good at what he did that he was given $1 million raise to fight people in hockey.
Very wild, very crazy.
Very somber.
Yeah, lots going on there that we will unpack after we have a quick break and put Bob on our wild and mild ranking board. Welcome back to Wild World of Sport. This is your first time listening, watching, ingesting the show, fighting the show.
Snorting
Snorting the show. This is the part...
Flushing
it, yeah. He didn't do that.
Didn't do that,
No, he would never do that.
Pay attention.
Yeah, I know. Okay. It was his first time, all right? He screwed it up.
This is the part of the show where we rank the story that we've just heard on our very scientific wild and mild ranking board, brought to us by To All My Friends Bar.
They're fantastic. We're literally, after this, like, going to go watch some UFC. If you ever want to watch any sport or anything, they're very friendly. Call them up, make a booking. They'll chuck it on for you. Yeah, they're awesome. Go to Tamp.
And I'd just like to shout out Wally D in person gave me the idea for the story. So Wally D, shout out to you.
Wally D, are they a listener?
They are a listener.
Ah, well, thank you, Wally. I hope, Wally, you've liked and subscribed and you follow us on all our socials. And if you haven't yet, make sure 5-star review on Spotify, on Apple, write a little message there. Really helps grow the show and helps us produce the content that we're doing. So let's produce the Wild Mild board. Where should we put Bob? I'll start off because I'm already talking. I think he's beating Stephen Bradbury and the Jamaican bobsled to start. I don't think he's like wild at the top. I'm thinking maybe like 75% of the way there he's up, because
He's
pretty
changed
insane.
the game, yeah. Like in those like bits of the rankings that we talked about, like obviously it's really sad, but we didn't have like a negative modifier for sad story.
Yeah.
So looking past that, statistically, like in a lot of ways, one of the greats, and just the fact that maybe not necessarily he caused all the rules to be changed, but what he was doing definitely contributed to the modern hockey rules that we have now. So he's definitely like changed a lot of things. And I think it's pretty big.
We've debated how much his alcoholism and his drug use helped or hindered him, but I think it's fair to say, despite all of those challenges he had in his life, to be as good as he was as an enforcer, but then to move past just the enforcer level, to have those numbers that he did in just hockey in general, is staggering. And then you add in doing all those drugs and stuff, like to be able to be that good while being that high and that out of it and that hungover. I've been hungover, probably not as bad as Bob ever has. I couldn't imagine playing ice hockey.
I didn't go into it either, but his time at the Blackhawks, he had 8 full seasons there, and 7 of them he was still really good and competitive. The last one, when he was 35, he was past it.
Your typical finals season,
and wasn't great, but for at least minimum 6 of those years, he was still the top guy. He was the cream of the crop. He was the best bruiser in the league as well, and had cut out all of the personal dramas and the drug problems, alcoholism problems as well. I think for what it's worth.
Yeah. We just got to remember that it's like, we're not, by putting him up there, we're not glorifying the behavior, because it is a sad and tragic story, but that adds to the wildness in a way. So yeah, I mean, I'm happy to say maybe like a spot above Stephen, like give it a bit of space.
Yeah, like 2 fingers sort of, or like 2 people. So like, you can see how we're doing this on YouTube at Wild World of Sport.
Oh, we need to get the hockey stick and flick it on.
Yeah, I think
I'm happy with that spot. I think the story itself, there are definitely wild aspects, like a professional sporting organization, at least soft encouraging you to keep doing criminal and degenerate behavior because it improves your on-field performance, to gross negligence that he was doing things and they knew about it. They've admitted, we knew, but he was so good we didn't care, is just a negative thing. Being an all-time playoff point scorer, breaking Gordie Howe's record, one of the greats of all time, definitely talent there. And yeah, I agree with the spot on the ranking.
And I think one of the other wilder things, I mentioned it right at the end because that's when it came up, like, I don't think it was great. It's one of the dirty things about sport, that you can commit all these crimes and then get a pay increase. Like we mentioned Mason Greenwood. He didn't get a pay increase, but he was allowed to continue his career. So the fact that he got even more money, like you think, oh, you've been cut, that's going to like tie your hands a little bit at a negotiation.
And as well, like, I mean, the story's not about Mason Greenwood, but it's like, they've taken him and sort of, like, I guess embraced him and made him a star player again. So it's, I suppose it's not too different to what the Blackhawks did, but yeah.
I kind of think of it as like the Eddie Goodell insurance policy. Bob Probert was the best, so he was your best insurance policy for keeping the rest of your players safe. If you've got 18 players plus 2 goalies, 20 players, they're all worth $50,000 each. Pay Bob to then protect them. That probably comes into thinking there as well. So.
Honestly, like, the saddest thing about this whole story is like the Red Wings are awful. Well, they were awful. Hopefully the culture's changed now, right, James?
Well, they're back to being not a successful hockey team anymore. So I wonder how that moves with the culture.
Yeah, I suppose.
But
they were pretty successful while this was happening, right? Like,
yeah, he brought them up at his peak. They made the conference finals, which is pretty good, and they've won cups since. But yeah, it was, as Joey Coker, the Bruce brother, said, people didn't care about the goals, they cared about the fights, in Detroit specifically. And I just think, again, fitting resting place for Bob Probert, being in the penalty box where he spent so much of his career.
And we think it's a fitting place on our Wild and Mild board for him to be third of the way up, almost near the top, our top of the 3 stories. But if you disagree, you can let us know. Where can people let us know, Ben?
You can let us know at Wild World of Sport Pod on Instagram, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify.
Mm-hmm. Don't forget to...
Google Plus.
Yeah. Oh, you said we were leaving that to die.
I just left the door open. I thought you were setting me up for it.
No, I would never do that. But thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Thank you for snorting this podcast. Really does mean a lot, even if you're just here with us. But if you want to support even more, a like, a follow, and tell 5 friends. Otherwise, that copy pasta cat's going to be in your toaster.
You'll step on a stick and slip and lose a fight.
I tried to find it. I couldn't find any copy pasta. It's about a cat and a toaster.
I was riffing.
Oh, yeah, okay.
I knew it was a riff.
Riff
I've been your assistant coach, specifically focused on your enjoyment of the podcast. Ben Wybrow, James's brother, no relation.
I'm James Wybrow.
I am the Alexander.
They're named after you. The Bradford Alexanders are named
God.
after
You guys were wondering. It was me all along.
Revelation.
You picked one right at the start. You're like, well, I don't have to think about that anymore.
Oh, no, I was grappling with it. I had a few, but I thought that was the winner. Anyway,
it was good. You'll hear us in the next episode.
See you next week.
See ya. Bye.
Well, the hockey no contact on the goalie is Rule 69 as well. I wrote that down because I thought you'd find it funny. So Rule 46 manages fighting.
Did you write down what Rule 67 was?
No, I didn't. I didn't.
Purposely.
Yeah, it was definitely a choice.